It began under the cover of night somewhere, above the vast, silent void of the Indian Ocean. 3 aircraft, cloaked in radar-absorbing skin and shaped like shadows in flight, moved at cruising altitude. To the untrained eye, they were invisible, but to the world of military strategy, their presence was a roar of warning and absolute silence. DARKSIDE-2. Overkill 1, SHADOW1. These weren't just calci, they were messages, a declaration, a calculated statement from the United States Air Force to adversaries watching from the ground below, satellites above, and intelligence rooms buried in bunkers. These were B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, most secretive, powerful, and mission-capable strike platforms. And tonight, they were headed for the edge of the Iranian air defense zone. The world didn't know it yet. The mission wasn't designed to make headlines. It was designed to be seen by those who needed to see it: military planners in Tehran, radar operators along the Strait of Hormuz, and commanders responsible for protecting strategic targets inside Iran. For them, this was not just a flight. This was a clear demonstration of reach, readiness, and restraint. All at once. Each beat a spirit. On this patrol represented decades of technological mastery and trillions of dollars in combined defense infrastructure, powered by twin General Electric F118 turbofan engines and capable of intercontinental flight with air-to-air refueling. These bombers had left Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri nearly 20 hours earlier. Their route was classified, and so were the in-flight rendezvous points with refueling tankers, stretched out across the globe like stepping stones in the sky. But the purpose was simple: establish presence, show capability, and most of all, do it without firing a shot. Strategic bombers like the B-2 are rarely deployed this close to Iranian territory unless the United States wants to signal something big. In recent weeks, tensions had been simmering. Naval incidents in the Gulf, interference with commercial shipping near the strait, missile launches from Iranian proxies in the region. The geopolitical clock was ticking, and Washington had decided it was time for a subtle, unmistakable reminder of American military options. As DARKSIDE 2 led the formation, its silhouette merged with the night sky. Unlike traditional aircraft, the B-2 has no vertical tail. Its sleek flying wing design means it reflects almost no radar signal. To Iranian air defenses, these aircraft were ghosts. Their radar signature, about the size of a bird. And yet, each one could carry up to 40,000 pounds of ordnance, conventional or nuclear. Inside the cockpit, 2 pilots in each B-2 aircraft monitored instruments with cold precision. There was no casual talk. Every move was scripted, every maneuver rehearsed thousands of times. These were not typical long-range bomber crews. This was the elite. Flying the B-2 requires years of training, extensive simulation, and selection into a small, highly specialized cadre. The lead aircraft, DARKSIDE 2, was flown by LT Colonel James Viper Rains, a 14-year veteran with 3 deployments and a reputation for ice-cold discipline. His co-pilot, Major Elena Torres, handled electronic warfare systems, sensor fusion overlays, and in-flight threat analysis. The two operated as a single unit, part machine, part instinct. Status check, Overkill 1. Rain's voice was calm but firm, echoing through encrypted channels. Green and steady. Range to checkpoint 4, 180 nautical miles. Came the reply from Overkill 1. Shadow 1. Status. Torres keyed in. Nominal across the board. Minor turbulence at 35,000. Adjusting altitude to 36. Confirming visual on Gulf illumination. The illumination was no accident. Far below, a U.S. Navy carrier strike group had moved into position off the coast of Oman. Aircraft from the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower had launched CAP missions, air patrols that lit up the night sky with navigation strobes, not unlike lighthouses on a war map. The message was clear: we're here, and we're watching. Back in Tehran, the Iranian military command was also watching, though they couldn't see the B-2S on radar. They knew the pattern. U.S. surveillance drones had mapped their radar installations for years. High-flying Eutelsat had recorded infrared activity from mobile missile batteries, and satellites tracked truck convoys moving liquid-fueled Shahab missiles under camouflage nets. The Iranian defense system is no pushover. It consists of Russian S-300 air defense systems, locally developed Bavar 373 missile platforms, and a complex array of short-range radar-guided SAMs. But none of it could guarantee a hit on a B-2. Not unless they knew exactly when and where it was coming. That's the advantage of stealth and of strategic ambiguity. For Iran's military planners, this was a nightmare scenario. A sudden, precise, untraceable American strike capable of decapitating command structures, wiping out key nuclear infrastructure, and disappearing before retaliation could be mounted. And that was exactly the point. The patrol continued in absolute radio silence for the next 2 hours. Only bursts of coded transmissions, encrypted and compressed, flashed between aircraft and the command and control aircraft hundreds of miles away. The entire operation was being monitored in real time from the Global Strike Command Center. In Louisiana and CENTCOM headquarters in Qatar. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the comms. It was TORCH-6. AUSAFE-11 Battlefield Airborne Communications Node, aircraft orbiting near the UAE, package confirmed. Tracking uplink steady. Relay from Blue Dagger Control, you are go for ARC Suite Pattern 3. That was the command. To execute the show-off force maneuver, the 3 bombers would fan out in a triangle formation, maintain spacing over international waters near the Iranian airspace boundary, and flash their radar-absorbent ID beacons just long enough to be picked up by high-frequency radar sites along the coast. For most aircraft, this would be suicide, but the B-2's edge lay in control, appearing just enough to be seen, then vanishing before being locked. Inside the Iranian command center, the radar ping lasted less than 30 seconds, enough to cause concern. Not enough to confirm trajectory or altitude. Unidentified LoRa-CS contacts, bearing 220, altitude unknown, estimated speed, high subsonic, possible stealth configuration, said the radar technician. A general barked an order. Track and log. Alert, intercept command. But by then, the triangle had vanished. DARKSIDE 2 had dipped altitude slightly and adjusted heading. The other 2 aircraft followed in a maneuver that created a brief gap in their electromagnetic signature. To the Iranian radar, they simply disappeared. Meanwhile, across secure American networks, imagery began streaming, and the B-2 South were equipped with high-resolution infrared and synthetic aperture radar systems. They weren't just flying, were mapping missile sites, communication nodes, fuel storage depots, hidden underground bunkers. All of it captured, time-stamped, and relayed back for analysis. But there was no strike tonight. The bombs stayed locked. The payload remained inert. Because this was psychological warfare at its most precise. The message was, we can be here anytime. We can reach your most guarded facilities, and you won't even see us coming. As the formation completed its arc and began its slow withdrawal from the area, the tension didn't fade, it lingered. That's what a true show of force does. It doesn't require combat. It just requires capability and the willingness to demonstrate it. DARKSIDE-2 turned northward for a mid-air refueling rendezvous over the Arabian Sea. AKC 135, at a tanker, call sign Lumberyard -4, was waiting. Precision refueling at night is no simple feat. It requires patience, zero error, and steady coordination. As the boom locked in, gallons of fuel flowed from the tanker into the stealth bomber. Thousands of feet below, an oil tanker from the Guelph sailed west, unaware of the shadow overhead. Meanwhile, Overkill 1 and Shadow 1 held pattern 50 miles east, waiting their turn to refuel. Once complete, all 3 aircraft would vector toward Diego Garcia, the U.S. military outpost in the Indian Ocean. Their day'd undergo systems checks, pilot debriefs, and refitting before the next phase. What would that phase be? No one could say, not even the crews. Because in strategic bomber missions like this, the future is always fluid. Each movement is calibrated, each response modeled on thousands of potential outcomes. In the game of high-stakes deterrence, ambiguity is the sharpest weapon. And so, under the heavy veil of a moonless sky, the B-2 spirits faded back into the atmosphere from which they had emerged, silent, unseen, but unforgettable.